All right, so here we have our rim joists. What we're gonna do first is lay out for our floor joists. So if you remember from our layout that we showed you, we have a stair opening in the middle of our floor. So that's always gonna be the first step when framing a wall or a floor or a deck. If you have any openings, you're gonna be laying out your openings first. So if you remember, our floor is 12 foot long, and that opening is exactly in the center of our floor. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hook on, and we're gonna mark 6 foot right here. That's gonna be our center point, and what I like to do to not confuse any of my marks is go ahead and square this off, and then make a C for center line. And what I like to do is lay out both of these at the same time. So I'll take both my front and my back rim joists, line them up side by side, and make sure they're nice and flush. If they're not perfectly flush, you're not gonna come out with a square floor, or your floor joist will be crooked, and that'll screw you up for your floor sheathing. So take some time and make sure you're nice and straight here. So then what you can do, you have it laid out on one, you can just transfer your line then to the second one. And anything you write on this one, you write on that one, and then you'll just be a mirror image of each other when you separate them. All right, so we have our 6 foot mark right here. Our opening is 3 foot wide. That's our rough opening. So what we're gonna do is divide 3 foot in half, which is 36 inches. Divide that in half is 18. So I'm gonna come 18 inches off this line. Then I'm gonna come 18 inches off of this line. And then double check our measurement here. We should have exactly 36, which we do. So we're going to make a line here representing our rough opening on both sides. All right. So as you remember from our layout, we have that double joist going on both sides of our opening. That joist is called our trimmer joists. So what we'll do here is we'll come off 1.5 inches from our layout mark here. We'll draw one joist. Again, we'll transfer it. And then we'll come another 1.5 inches. And now we have our location for both of our trimmer joists. I like to write a T, that stands for trimmer. And then we'll do the exact same thing here on this side. Okay, so now if we come back here and double check, we have that perfect 3 foot opening from inside to inside of our trimmer joists. And now it's gonna be pretty evident why we want to lay out our openings before we lay out our floor framing, or our 16 on center. If we laid out our floor joist first, then we're gonna have a whole bunch of stuff, scribbles in our way, and then we won't be able to tell what's our trimmer or our cripple joist or our trimmer joist. So we just lay that out right now, and then as we're laying out our 16 on center, anything that lies in between this open area here is gonna become a cripple joist. So first thing we'll do here is hook onto our end, double check again that we're still flush, and we're gonna start laying out our 16 on center. So the first step that we're gonna do with that is we're gonna find our 16-inch mark, and we're actually not gonna mark right on 16, we're gonna subtract 3/4 of an inch. And that'll make a little bit more sense when we get to our floor sheathing phase of the project. But essentially what we're doing here is if I mark this out here, this is gonna be the edge of our joist. I'll come back 1.5 inches here, mark another line. Oops. And now you can see when we hook on, our 16 inches lies right on the center of that floor joist. So we don't want our 16 falling on the side, we want it right on the center. And we want all of our joists as we lay out to be right on center. That way, when we lay out our floor sheathing, our sheathing comes in 4x8 sheets. When you lay out a 4-foot or 8-foot sheet, the edge of that sheet's gonna line right up on the center of one of these joists here. That way you can nail on the edge here, and you can nail on the edge here, and you don't have any edges not being supported by a joist. So what we'll continue to do is bring our tape all the way out here. And then every 16 inches, we're going to do the same thing we did on this first one. We're gonna find our 16-inch mark, so our second one would be 32, and we'll come back that 3/4. I like to make a little mark and then come off one way and make an X. That way you know this little mark that you made is the edge of the joist, and you know the way you come off and put an X, that's the side that the floor joist is gonna lay on. So we'll come on every 16 inches and make a mark. So again, these are all regular floor joists. Now we're entering in our opening. So all of these guys are gonna be cripple studs, or cripple joists that are in here. So I'll just make a C instead of an X to represent that. And now we're outside again. So we'll go back to regular floor joists. Alright, and then we end on 12 feet. So we'll bring in our tape here, and then we'll start marking these all out. So now that we have all these laid out, we can see exactly where all of our floor joists are gonna lay out. So some of you that might have done a little floor framing in the past may have noticed that I marked both sides of the joists. If you get good, you don't have to. You can just mark that first edge, that 3/4 that we came back, and then put that X. Then you'll know where the floor joist will go. But when you're working with students and leaders that don't have a lot of experience, it's a really good idea to put both lines on there. It's just a little less confusing, and they'll know to put it on that side of the line. Also, we have, I don't usually mark my ends, but again, when working with volunteers, it's a good idea to come back and mark out a layout for your end joist as well. That way your teams don't forget to have one on the end. All right, so we can get a lot of information here from our layout. We can count up how many full-size joists we're gonna need. We're gonna count up how many trimmers we need and how many cripples we're gonna need. And then we'll take that information and start cutting all of our floor joists and getting ready for our framing.